So Chair Doug Silvestri and Co-Chair of the Finance Personnel, Stephen Santosonio. I guess we're just waiting for one other council member, but we'll let them in once we start. So.
We can call to order this joint finance audit and personnel committee meeting for Tuesday, May 24th, 5:45. I will start off by reading the accessibility statement. This meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Microphones or telephones will be used by all speakers. Large print materials are available upon requests, advance requests. If you would like either of these accommodations, please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833 extension 202. The notice of non-discrimination rights and protections to beneficiaries with regard to the federal Title VI non-discrimination protections and the state non-discrimination protections is posted in this meeting room and is available on the Old Colony Planning Council website. Please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833 extension 202 for more information. Thank you.
Mr. Chairs, I will call the roll. Chair Doug Silvestri.
Present.
Co-Chair Stephen Santosonio.
Present.
Becky Coletta.
Present.
Frank Staffier.
Present.
Lee Hartman.
Present.
Christine Joy.
Present.
Sandra Wright. Yes, Sandra, she's on. And I'm John Desk, and I'm assuming that's John Costa. If I can just, when you get a chance, if you can just, yep, and if John Desk, if you can just identify yourself, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, well, I don't know who.
Yeah. Hi, Mary. It's John Haynes.
Oh, John Haynes, thank you very much. We have another John finally on the other committee. So thanks, John Haynes, for joining us from East Bridgewater. And Mr. Chair, with that, Sean Noel, do you want to share your screen and the agenda and the minutes? He's getting there.
Yep. Second.
And while Sean is doing that, Mr. Chair, I was notified by phone call this morning that our treasurer-elect, Fred Gilmetti, is going to be moving to the Carolinas and will be stepping down and unable to fulfill his duty as treasurer. He will be notifying by way of a letter to OCPC. So I'll give that to you, Madam President, current President. We will need to hold a nomination for the treasurer, and then he will also be notifying the town to make sure that they have another, either have Dan be the delegate and having another alternate. So just a little housekeeping about some things moving forward. So all things were moving pretty fast.
Oh, awesome. I'm sorry to see him go.
Yes, 43 years, by the way, that he has served on the OCPC Council as a delegate, longest standing delegate. Yes.
Wow.
Good for him.
We're gonna give him a gold watch or something? No.
Well, there will be a couple of things, and I can talk a little bit about that at the end, but thank you, Stephen.
All right. So I guess on the agenda is the minutes for April 26th Finance Committee meeting. Everybody have a chance to review those minutes? Have any questions?
If they have, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept them as written.
All right, I have a motion to accept what was written.
Second.
Second. Awesome. Mary, did you want to do a
Roll call? Yes.
please.
Doug Silvestri,
Accept.
Stephen Santosonio,
Except.
Frank Staffier,
Accept.
John Hayes, Christine Joy.
Except.
Thank you. Becky Coletta,
Except.
Sandra Wright.
I don't think I was at that meeting, so I will abstain.
Okay, and then Lee Hartman. Lee Hartman, who's known as John Hayes.
What? Oh, how'd that happen? You know
I
that?
don't know.
Who named, somebody did that, because I didn't do it.
I did not.
Charlie, it's gotta
See?
be Charlie.
See, John Hayes, when you begin this is what happens when you join the committee. Mr. Chair, I can go right into the discussion of the updated declaration of trust as pretty much all of you were informed. I think I was able to get to most of you, if not. So we did hold a special finance meeting to talk about Lee Hartman. We weren't talking about Lee Hartman.
You like that, don't you, huh?
I do.
I'm gonna make my point.
But we had this special meeting. I thought it was a really good meeting and continued to cultivate the questions that the members had raised. Matt was there. He was taking notes. I was kind of working through some notes as well. As many of you had seen, I had shared the minutes from the meeting, but I do not have a completed updated trust from accepting. Today was one of those days that just there were other priorities were took precedence over it. So, and then there was some dialogue between some of the members about whether to take it up today. So that is up for discussion. I mean, I do not have an updated draft of a trust ready for today.
Yeah, my opinion was that we table this and vote on it once the final declaration is made and sent out before we send it to the council. But if anybody else has any other opinions or options on it.
I think that once Matt gets a hold of that, and then I'll share the YouTube video so he can watch it as well, that I did last night, trying to do the minutes and trying to get everything together. That should come pretty quick. So as soon as that comes, to get that out to all of the members. And then I would not call a special meeting. I don't think there's a need for a special meeting. I just think we'll just put it on the agenda for the next finance meeting. So my apologies for not having it today, but I think we want to make sure that it has the legal eyes on them and cross the i's and dot the t's. Dot the i's, cross the t's. So that will be the timetable. As soon as I get it, I'll get it out to all the members.
Do you want to make that into a motion, Doug?
Yeah, I guess the motion would be to table the declaration of trust until we can all review the final document.
All right, I'll second that motion.
You want to do a roll call, Mary?
Yes, Doug Silvestri,
Accept?
Stephen Santisonio,
Accept.
Frank Staffier,
Except,
Lee Hartman with exclamation points,
Except,
Christine Choi,
Accept.
Becky Coletta,
Except,
Sandra Wright,
Except,
John Hayes. Thank you.
Accept.
Then this will be going into the financials, Mr. Chair. And there, as I explained to Doug, there was in the financials, they'll be at the end when Brenda, when she goes over the review of the ROM and things of that nature. I'm going to ask for some leniency to take up an item. Again, it has to do with a resolution, but I'll address it at that point. So Brenda?
Okay. The statement of expenditures report shows total expenses for the month of $233,158.79. Cash position report shows income for the month at $429,436.11. Disbursements for the month were $584,136.83. The total cash available at month's end was $1,148,706.50. The OPEB account had a loss of $34,770.25, bringing the ending balance in the OPEB account to $893,287. Moving ahead to the budget resources report, total receipts all the way to the bottom, Sean. Total receipts for the month being $429,436.11 brings the total cumulative receipts in FY22 to $2,763,532.46. The AAA report. Total outstanding balance on pass-through funds for AAA programs for FY21 at the end of April were $31,254.02. The total outstanding balance on pass-through funds for AAA for FY22 at the end of April were $863,651.79, bringing the total outstanding balance to $894,905 $1,086.81. The voluntary transportation account, beginning balance in April was $177,662.01. No restricted fund payments to volunteers in April. Donations received in the fund in April were a total of $86.98, bringing the April ending balance in the fund to $177,748.99. The ROM statement for April, the balance at the beginning of the month was $182,097.62. April receipts were $5,550, bringing the total ROM FY22 receipts to $65,242. April expenses were $6,323.53, bringing the total ROM expenses in FY22 to $67,231.34. The ending balance in April was $182,167.90. The budget spend town report. We're looking at page 1, expenses. Keep going. Here we go. Page 1, total FY22 expenses, go all the way to the bottom, for the end of April was $1,738,911. Our spent to date percentage rate at the end of April was 74.15%. The ideal percentage in the 10th month of the fiscal year would be 83.3%. So we continue in a positive trend, showing a 9.18% surplus at the end of April.
I have a question.
Yes.
If we end up with a surplus at the end of the year on this budget,
Yep.
what happens to that money?
It just gets absorbed and becomes part of next year's numbers.
Okay,
You know,
thanks. We don't
everything-
lose it.
Everything starts over again. No, it's not. We don't just all of a sudden have this big chunk of money that we spend.
Or that we lose.
Right, exactly. It just sort of just rolls over and the numbers it becomes a whole new budget, and that surplus changes because the income and expenses estimated for FY23 are whole different numbers.
Okay, thanks.
That answer your question? Good. Okay, and if you move all the way up to page 3, Sean, there's a little square about the miscellaneous surplus. Oh, you're going the wrong way. Yeah, wrong way. You're going backwards.
You said move up, so
One.
I was confused.
I'm sorry. So there's page 3. Our miscellaneous surplus stated on page 3 stands at $226,166. So that's where our surplus stands at this point in time. The next in the packet is the list of the April combined AP and cash transfers. So that's just all of the AP that went out and the cash transfer that was made to cover payroll. Okay, and that's it for that part of the packet. Don't go to that budget just yet. Sean, Mary, do you want me to go through the existing insurances, and do you want me to go to those items, or do we want to?
I think we want to wait and let's get a vote on the
Okay.
budget at this point.
Okay,
And if I could, just because Becky did bring it up, and it always does come up, and Doug and we had a little bit of a conversation before the meeting started, is the miscellaneous piece is something that is really used more as a reserve account, I guess is the best way
yeah,
to do
pretty
that.
much.
You know,
Rainy day fund.
rainy day
Yeah.
fund,
Yeah.
and it's a lot in there, but there, if we look at each of these items, as it's broken down, I mean, anything can happen. And this is one of the things we'll talk about, is that, you know, with Dottie did not get that EDA grant that we were hoping to get. And just by way of explanation, Dottie's 2-year grant was 100% funded by the federal government. We didn't, all that we really paid for was, what did we pay for out of that, Brenda? Vacation time, sick time, things like that. I mean, there was a
I'm
couple
sorry,
things.
but can you repeat the beginning of the question?
The beginning of the question is the Dottie's grant, how she has been funded over the last 2 years,
Yep.
has been by an EDA grant. We did not even have any cash match that was in it. It was 100% for.
No, it was 100% federal funded money. Yes, it was.
And in terms of like for vacation time, sick time, or things like that, did that come out of us, or is that?
No, No, that was
Oh,
all
the
embedded
grant.
inside of the grant,
Right.
under, it's what's part of the fringe.
Right, and so when she applied for the funding, that everybody was so supportive of the EDA that we had the resolution 2 months ago. We did not get the funding for that. We were denied. There was 3 times as many applications, and so that does become a little bit of a challenge for us, particularly this time of the year. But Stephen, you have your hand up?
Yes, it was drive me nuts if I didn't say this, but miscellaneous is spelled wrong.
Thank you
Oh.
very much.
Oh, oopsies. I'll fix that, I promise. Sorry.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Oopsies.
We can tell you what kind of week we've had already, and it's only Tuesday, right?
Goodness.
But it's important, I think, at this point to stop and obviously it was a recovery. It was COVID. That was the purpose. About a year into the grant, we all, Lori, Muncie, her supervisor, Charlie, Brenda, and I, we sat with Dottie about being more aggressive in terms of finding for grants. And she had been looking, but I think toward the end, it really was coming evident that there weren't as many things that we're hoping to pop. And so anyway, she applied, we applied, we put it in, we did not get funded. Dottie's been seeking other grant funding and including housing, including blue economy, including broadband, like whatever's been out there. So it was a question early on saying, well, let's go dip into that rainy day account to pay for a salary. And it is a high price salary that I would not necessarily at this point say, let's take all that and clean that out. Dottie is certainly valued, extraordinarily valued. But we're coming into a little bit of a tenuous time with overlap of fiscal years and when the funds may be coming and when those new funds may be coming. So there are 2 resolutions, and maybe Sean, if you can stop sharing your screen.
Mary, I actually needed to add something else related to that miscellaneous. I think that it's kind of important to
Please.
First of all, to remind everyone, if you don't already know, a balanced budget is when the expenses and the income have to balance. They have to be the same number. So what I've always done is carry what would normally be an unbalanced budget showing a surplus at the end. Instead of doing that, I just show it in a category called miscellaneous. And I'm constantly borrowing out of that miscellaneous as the numbers change in the course of a month. Also, just so you understand, we have, just because the expenses are true, they're true. They're out of QuickBooks, those things are paid. But on the income side, what shows in the income for the grant income that we're expecting has not necessarily all shown up yet. Particularly our AAA admin programs. They are, how much behind are they, Sean?
6 to 7 months.
Yeah, they're way behind, and it's like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So
Yeah.
that surplus.
We haven't received
showing-
anything for fiscal 22.
Yeah, that miscellaneous number is showing in there as this big giant surplus, but we don't really have that liquid cash sitting there. We really don't, because it hasn't arrived yet.
So the miscellaneous does have a purpose in terms of what we're able to be, rather than
Right,
dipping into
right.
some sort of loan or things of that nature.
So I
And
just needed to add that.
And thank you. That's, I think, important. And then the other piece that's really important is that it's not like we're just saying, hey, we know that you're behind. Brenda, Sean, David Klein have been very aggressive in terms of reaching out to the Executive Office Elder Affairs to say, where's our money? We've been waiting.
Yeah.
They are having some personnel issues of not getting folks, I guess, is one of the things. But regardless of their issues, it's funds that belong in our coffers that make it challenging. It could be made challenging. So,
And I think everybody who's been here for a while, this is typical AAA. This happens every single year. Nothing unusual.
So just a couple points. So on again, about the miscellaneous, that is a larger number than I think most people want to see, but it is there for a purpose. And we can go finish up with the financials and take up separately it's not on your agenda, but the resolves to have the allocated the cash match be part of that. So I'll hold off on going into that right now.
So I'm finished for that particular part of the financials.
So I think you need a motion, Mr.
Yep.
Chair.
So do I have a motion to approve the financial?
I'll make a motion to
I'll second it, Doug.
Thank you.
accept the May financials as printed, or is it April?
April.
April. Okay, the April. Thank you.
For the roll call, Doug Silvestri,
Accept.
Stephen Centrosonio,
Accept.
Christine Joy,
Accept.
Sandra Wright,
Except,
Frank Staffier,
Accept.
Lee Hartman,
Accept.
Becky Coletta,
Except,
and John Hayes.
Accept.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Brenda,
So,
Okay, you want me to move forward? Okay. I wanted on the agenda, I wanted to review the existing insurances, and Sean, I sent you, the insurance list is not in this packet. I emailed it to you. It's a separate, it's in SharePoint, but I thought it might be quicker if you could grab it out of email. Our list of insurances, but just while he's finding that too, so you can all see the insurance list. Everything that's due in this fiscal year has been paid. There are a lot of things come due in July and August, which of course lands in FY23. But I just wanted everyone to know that I reached out to our Roger Keith and Sons, our broker representative, Elise Fiano, regarding the criteria used to select our various insurances. And this is a summary of her responses. Roger Keith and Sons Insurance Agency is a member of the Assure Alliance Group, which grants them access to most of the marketplace. They have a specialized appetite for social service and nonprofit organizations. Not all markets are able to consider these types of risks. Some of the carriers that can consider social service and nonprofit type risks are Chubb, Philadelphia Selective, Hanover, Nationwide, and Travelers. Generally, accounts are marketed every 3 years unless circumstances present themselves that would warrant marketing an account sooner. Some examples would be a change in marketplace, additional carriers, or a carrier having underwriting changes. They have full access to the excess wholesale insurance market for specialty programs and or harder to place risks. They closely monitor the financial ratings of the insurance carriers available for them to work with to ensure they are A-rated or better. So I wanted to throw that out there because questions came up at the last meeting regarding should we shop for another broker. So I wanted to throw that information out there about the broker, which came from our broker. So
and one of the reasons why I had asked Brenda to do that is that, you know, it does have a value. It's been someone that was pre-existing before I had come here. And I thought it was at least just, rather than just let's keep on going because we've been working with them, kind of to the point, like Becky had mentioned, let's diversify in terms of our vendors, and that we only just don't use a vendor that just because we've been using with them. Although what Brenda did was, you know, she did provide a good overview as to what makes them a good insurance broker to deal with. So I appreciate what Brenda did in terms of getting a little bit more of their background, and perhaps you know, just again to have the council have a say into whether continue on and or to if you want us to go out to bid.
when would that policy end?
well, this is just the broker. A broker is a person that you hire and they shop all, you know, we don't really pay anything to the broker. They shop for the best insurances for all of the insurance needs that we have. So I think we discussed maybe changing brokers. So I was just giving a background on the broker, on why this broker is an exceptional broker. And do we want to reach out for a different broker? And by the way, this broker is in Brockton. So, you know, so that's all, but it's not like a shop around for best prices of a broker. It's, do we think this broker is doing a good job? I think that's really the point.
I think that is.
Just the list of the insurances, just so everyone can see the insurances that we carry, you know, the approximate costs currently, and what the policies are. And, you know, this is the full list of everything. So if anyone has any questions about that.
So again, you can see here the policy period, July to July, July to August, August, May to May. We have.
Two of them were just renewed, but everything else pretty much is in FY '23.
The directors and officers insurance has been paid, so that's parts of the important piece, but it's a lot. But again, I had asked Brenda to do a presentation on this and at least give you an up-to-date. And, you know, they had some changes. So there was a couple things that came in that we didn't know that were coming due. And that's what prompted me to say, well, let's make sure that we have a listing of when all of them are coming due. And again, the conversation for the council members, I think what you're hearing from Brenda is that she's satisfied with Roger Keith. They actually have locations pretty much all over the region from here in East Bridgewater and I think one other location. So anyway, it's the will of the council just to let you know. So cost wise, if you're looking at, you know, if you look cumulatively here, right? So we're talking about maybe 30,000, 15, 30, 25. I haven't
I
calculated
should have
it.
put a total on the bottom of that.
That's all right.
Brenda,
Yes,
I have a question.
okay.
On the nonprofit package, property liability, wouldn't that be covered under ROM? Is this all ROM?
So I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Someone yelled for me upstairs and I didn't hear you. Could you
Is
repeat,
that
please?
property liability under ROM?
I'm on a Zoom meeting, honey. Go
Yeah,
away.
yeah, so I can answer that. It is under ROM. These are not all OCPC. This is a combination of OCPC, drone insurance, workers' comp. So it's, so the liability is allocated to the OCPC ROM, correct?
Okay.
So
thank you.
did she answer the question? My son decided.
I
that
did.
it's time
I
to
did. I
do-
answered it.
speak to me. Sorry.
You know, and again, some of these things are allocated, the, you know, the insurance as well as the drone, some of these things are operational, but some of these are also allocated to just again, the work of the so I think I was just talking just generally, here's the list, this is what we pay, this is the schedule, and it does have a value, right? I mean, there's a, I'm not an insurance agent, so I'm not sure exactly how it works, but they do get as being the broker in this, they get something out of this, but at the same time for us, it's helpful for us to not have several insurance agents. It's really helpful to have it be a one-stop so we can get the information.
They probably get some kind of a percentage from the, you know, they're like as the go-between. Honestly, I don't know. We don't see it, whatever it is.
We definitely do get a certain.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they're making
Yeah.
some kind of money.
So I didn't mean to spend a lot of time on this. I just wanted, number one, for Brenda to give the overview. She obviously gave the background about Roger Keith, but I think that as we do this, it's to let the council members and transparency level is that let you know what we have our insurance, and certainly, you know, for us, just like we're going to do with the auditing services, that when they come due at the end of their 3 years, we'll put out an RFP, and that is an option for the council if you want to do that. I just want to make sure you have all your options available.
So it sounds like you're satisfied with the work, with the groups that you have. So I would just suggest that we keep it as is, but maybe as you are networking with some of the other RPAs across the state, you start to ask them about what some of their experiences are and costs are. And unless you see something that is really out of whack with maybe one of the other groups that has a better rate, other than that, my position would be, I'd defer to you. And if you're comfortable, I think that's fine from my standpoint.
Thank you, Lee. So this is more of an information, and I don't think you need a formal vote on this. I just wanted to make sure that you see this, and then what, as Talise suggested, what we'll do is Brenda gets in touch with the other fiscal managers within the other regional planning agencies and see what they do and how they do it, and then we can come back to you with some recommendations.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for putting that together.
You're welcome. And finally, just wanted to give you an update on our building loan. I'm not even sure if you need an update because we did just amend our building loan, and that loan does not mature until April of 2028. So just giving you an update. I don't really think we need to do anything with that at this moment since we did that last year.
Right. I mean, just for others, just to see, right? Because and the loan is with Harbor One, is that right? No, Rockland Trust.
Yes, it's with Rockland. Yeah.
Rockland Trust, yeah.
Yeah, and this is the actual amendment right here, which is, you can't really see it very well, but if anyone wants to see the amendment, it's there. I think I sent that out to everyone. If anyone wants a copy of it, all you have to do is ask.
Right. Okay,
Okay, and that's it for my financial reports.
Okay.
Good job.
But we do have the FY23 budget to just look at. Sorry about that.
and
Yeah.
Sean Noel, do you want to share that? We'll get back to Vanna number 1 as opposed to Vanna number 2.
And the FY23 amended budget, the numbers have already changed since I posted this budget. It's a constant moving target because we're still in planning. But this gives you a general idea, and then the numbers that will land at our next month's meeting will be as solid as we can get numbers to be that will be voted in, and those numbers will stay still the entire year. And then the graph of the changing items will sit alongside, just like we did this year. And as you can see, our surplus starting out is not nearly as much as, starting out, it's at, I can't quite see it, but it's 143,000 starting out, which is, still a nice surplus.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I kind of looked this over today and saw some of the additions and subtractions to some of these columns,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, any questions? Do you have any questions about anything, Doug, or does anyone have any questions about any of the items on the budget?
No, it looked all clean.
What I would offer that between now and the June meeting, offer to this committee member, any member, as well as council member, to come in and talk with Brenda about it.
Yes, please.
As she
please.
mentioned early on, if you want to see like what is under payroll versus, I think there was the last couple of years, we've really gotten a better handle as to what's the difference between equipment purchase, equipment repairs, equipment rental, equipment supplies, right? But there's a reason behind all of those and in terms of what they mean. So Brenda has taken some great time and effort to sit with me to go over the chart of accounts and to delineate what goes into which line item. So one of the other, major things that we did, as everybody knows, is that the phones, right? We went from a phone that's not on my desk to cell phones that now all the staff are using, and they're working out just fine, and people are using them, and it's been appreciated. But that came at a cost, and it's going to be continued. So I would say it's not the whole thing in terms of why when going from the 226, 166 to 143. But it does add up, and we're a growing organization with growing needs, and the computers and the laptops, those were another big item that we've had. But we are at a point where those that were purchased like last year, they will have a 3 to 4 year, maybe even 5-year shelf life, right? So we have a plan that's in place as we are working with right technology. But I think that we are where we are in terms of our capital needs, as well as organization needs, that we're in a good place.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. I mean, like I said, I looked it over, and like you said, certain things, salaries and whatnot are a lot higher than they were last year. So
Yeah, that salary number is definitely going to change. It's not that number's not, we've been, we're still talking about those items. So
you're right.
that number definitely will change. It will change.
But it gives a good sense, Doug, I think, to your point, and looking at where they are, and outside of that salary, those numbers are not really, the percentages are not really that big in terms of what's being done, right?
Okay.
So this is a proposed, a motion will be needed, but a final budget will be prepared for the June 28th finance meeting, and then prepared for a final vote of the council on Wednesday, June 29th.
So did you want the motion to accept what's proposed in front of us today?
It's a draft, knowing that there will
Accept the
be,
draft.
that's correct.
And Sean, you should let everyone take a look at the income portion of this. The next page, it shows the income.
we go.
Because it's
Yeah.
a good thing to also look at, not just looking at what we're spending, but what we're planning, what we have coming in.
Sean, can you go a little bit slower and just start from the top? Because I think it's helpful. And just move the bottom tab just so we can, there we go, Oop, right? It won't get the whole thing, but it will be enough there. So the community members assessment,
So that increases 2% every year.
2.5% every year, isn't it?
Yes, it's 2.5%. Yes, something like that in the ballpark.
Yeah. And just one thing in corrective action was MAPC was getting one of our communities. It was something like $3,000 to $4,000, but it was spotted. I forget. I think it was Lori Muncie. I think someone had spotted it. We brought it to A&F, and we now have $5,000 more than we did last year. But the EDA is one of the things, as you notice, that $200,000. That's with overhead. The $200,000 allocated, so that does go away. Mass DOT, if you can notice that, as Charlie may have mentioned, I know certainly at the various meetings, but there is an increase that will take effect in October 1st. Is that right, Charlie?
Yes, that's correct. It's about 19% increase.
Great, thank you. And then obviously the elder affairs, and then
Will that DOT increase continue in the future, or is this part of that one-time money?
Well, what happened was with the bipartisan infrastructure law that passed, the size of the pie grew substantially from 2021 to 2022, and what we're launching into subsequent years going from 23 to 24, the jump won't be as much,
right.
but it's expected to increase, 2 to 5%.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And just one of the plans that Charlie has, and it's to be determined yet, is that just evaluating the current staff. He had a few transitions last year, staff of transportation staff stepping up in terms of working with each other. And Charlie's going to be identifying the gap of what else is needed to supplement the existing staff. That won't happen right away, but he's currently assessing that. So, and then of course the AAA, all various levels, in terms of whether we're a pass through, but the administration of that.
Yeah, this is not, everything on this page is not
Correct.
pass through. This is
Right.
all admin
Moved-
funds.
That's, but I'm sorry, I was looking at the CTG move to pass through AAA.
Yeah, that because last year it was on the regular budget page, but that really is pass through fund. So I've moved
Right.
it down.
Got it. Okay, understood.
Right.
Yep. And then of course the DLTA right now, there is legislation that we're working on to have the Senate increase that. So there could be a possibility of an increase in the DLTA, but that's bread and butter for all of you who know. I know a number of you have work going on in your communities with those funds. Then there's a brick under the housing and community development. That's new, the 50,000. And then local assistance, right? This is, we have a call into Brockton area transit to make sure that see what sort of planning projects are there. The septic is bringing in funding. There is actually, it's not T for MOU, but it's called T for Mass, and I serve on their executive committee, and they pay me $5,000 for sitting on the meeting. Those funds come into OCPC.
It's worth
then-
every penny.
The 5,000 is it's a great connectivity in terms of social justice issues and equity within transportation. It's been very valuable to be sitting on that. But then, as you can see, green communities and the various other open space and housing production plans that are being, so those are additional dollars. So the challenge that we have is we have all these great programs and funds that we can go out to and do we have the staff capacity to take things on? So that's always being evaluated with the managers, with Lori, David, Charlie, Brenda, and myself on a monthly basis. And then it's under the miscellaneous income, the ROM, and rent offset OCPC expense. Thank you. I think that was worthwhile, Brenda, to go through.
And on the final page, we have, massive amounts of pass-through funds,
Yeah.
which, really honestly, it's all pass-through funds, but it keeps quite a bit of money in our account all of the time. It's doesn't ever quite catch up with itself because it's always a little bit behind. We're usually paying the subgrantees earlier than we get the money back, but at the end of the day, it puts quite a bit of money in the bank, quite honestly. So anyway, so that's the end of the FY23 budget as it stands at the moment, to be changed next month.
And Brenda, if between now and next month, again, once you feel that you have that budget, because obviously so there's a couple other things that are going on just in addition to the EDA CARES grant. We also have the assisted living grant. It's a state funding. It's not a grant, it's state funding. And the staff person that we have, who's relatively new, is expecting, and she's having complications, and it requires site visits. So we are in the middle of trying to deal with the state, and we have weekly meetings with the state to stay on top of that issue. But if we do not have a person who can meet those needs, they may take the funding away. And this is all in the last quarter of a fiscal year, and trying to get the obviously getting this budget in play. So to Brenda's credit, and Charlie's been working with us as well as David. And so this, again, is still preliminary, but as we move forward, I would probably say by mid-June, Brenda, we should have a better idea about what we're gonna.
Oh, yeah, as June moves along and the bills come in and we hear back we'll have a better idea what's happening with any, I know we're working, particularly the CPED group is working on some potential new
Right.
grant funds.
Right.
So, the further along it gets in June, I will be putting these numbers in at the very last and final millionth hour, because that's when it becomes more accurate. So,
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for putting that together. I think it's really interesting to point out that even though you lost that 200 grand for the EDA, you're still 50,000 more than you were with it.
yeah, isn't that
last
something?
year.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah.
All right. So would I like to have a motion to accept the draft proposed budget as it was presented today?
Motion, so, yeah, I'm sorry.
Second. Okay.
So on the vote, Doug Silvestri,
Accept.
Stephen Santisonio,
Except,
Sandra Wright,
Accept,
Lee Hartman,
Except,
Becky Coletta,
Except,
Frank Staffier,
Except,
Christine Joy,
Accept.
John Hayes.
Accept.
Thank you, everyone. And now it's my turn to go one more item. This is so following up at the discussion we talked about in between is the resolutions for the Dottie grant. And let me share my screen. And so very similar language. Get this? Very similar language, except that it's identifying specifically. Let me make this a little bit bigger so everybody can see. There, is that better? Pretty much the same, but you can see grant application, so it's a specific grant application named here. Sidebar, and while we've been arguing about it with EDA, we had this resolution saying that the council voted to support. Apparently there was a letter that needed to come from me to say, yes, the council said that there's money there, and it actually was one of the reasons it identified why we did not get funding. So we're now aware that not only do we need this resolution to identify, we also need to have an accompanying letter. It was a technicality. They were looking again with that last application with 3 times as many applications that they've had in the past. Anything that was even close to not being exactly what they were looking for, they would, even though it was a good idea, they would throw us out. So this language, and again, it's July 1st of 2022, because it's a 2-year grant to June 30th to 20. So it commits up to the 80,000. That's over a 2-year period of time. So 40,000, 40,000. And I would look for your favorable recommendation of this resolve. And Brenda, you have confirmed that the 40,000 per year is in
Yes.
the budget.
Yes. Well, the member assessments are already there, so it's there.
So you make a motion to pass the resolve as presented?
second,
second, oh,
And if there aren't any questions, then I'll go into a roll call. Doug Silvestri,
Accept.
Stephen Santisonio,
Accept.
Becky Coletta,
Except,
Frank Staffier,
Accept.
Lee Hartman,
Accept.
Christine Joy,
Except,
Sandra Wright.
Except,
I did John Hayes, I think. Did John Hayes? I think John Hayes stepped off. Okay. Oh, no, there you are, John. Sorry, John Hayes.
Except,
Thank you, John. And that grant deadline is due on June 6th. If we do not get that grant, we are ready and prepared to apply for another grant. And with the caveat to know that if we do not get that first grant, I am asking for a support of rather than having to wait till the June meeting or call a special meeting, I would like that only in case of the funding is not there, that there are, where was it?
You can't apply for grants simultaneously. It's be one at a time.
Not for EDA, and not particularly because we do not necessarily, as this is kind of goes back to that miscellaneous funds, while there are funds in there, but if we took 80,000 for that first grant and 80,000 for the second grant, that will eat up all of our miscellaneous for
Right.
anything that we have across the board. And I would not recommend that. Dottie is very much well worth her value for this organization, but I could not recommend having both grants go forward with that same amount of cash match. And I think that's where our challenge is. We're looking for funding. And in this case is Plan A is the first one. We think that's real and has a good chance because we were pretty much asked by EDA to apply. And the second one is to have the support of a cash match if the first grant application is not successful.
Okay, thanks.
So I would look for a motion to accept.
So a motion to accept the cash match that's presented by Mary today.
I'll
Second.
second. Oh, sorry.
Roll call is Doug Silvestri,
Accept.
Stephen Santisonio,
Accept.
Lee Hartman,
Accept.
Sandra Wright,
except,
John Hayes,
except,
Frank Staffier,
Accept.
Christine Joy,
except,
Becky Coletta.
except,
And that, I believe, we are complete.
Hmm.
I know that's a lot, and I appreciate that from everybody. It's again, we're back to that. We're like the Celtics, right? We're in that final stretch of just getting us through, and the fourth quarter, and we come through with hopefully a 3-shot by Williams. How's that? Or Jason?
Tatum,
I'm sorry.
Tatum.
Tatum, thank you. So that concludes all the action that is required at this point for the finance meeting. I'm trying to think.
Are we still going to break into an executive session?
We can, and and Brenda, I would need you and if Charlie, just Sam, because I'm going to need some help on this. So the reason for going into executive sessions that I thought it would be at least a review of what's being proposed for staff. This is for, while it is, we talked about this, that it's under the executive director's purview, but to just kind of review, just at a glance, I don't expect it to take very long, but just so you know, some of the thought process behind that.
And these numbers that you have projected out for your salary, were they input into the proposed
Yes.
FY23? Okay.
Yes, yep. So, yes. Brenda, do you have those numbers on your screen?
I'm the computer that I'm on is not where they live, so.
So if I could, Sean Noel, I'm actually going to ask you. So now we're back to the regular council, and I believe that a motion is needed to adjourn the joint
I'll
meeting.
make-
Thank you.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Awesome.
I'll
Those in
second it,
favor.
Chris.
Okay. I'll just do all those in favor.
Aye.
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 Thank you, everybody. So tomorrow, everybody's got the agenda for tomorrow, 6 o'clock. We won't be taking up the OPEB declaration, and there will be, as everybody saw, there'll be some tip amendments and bylaws and things of that nature. So
Mary, are you gonna do something about Fred tomorrow, talking about that?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have that on my notes, and maybe I'll just even do a quick little agenda, and just, well, I have everybody as well, that we're making the June 29th, the annual meeting, the Wednesday, because we have Fred leaving, and also Doug, who's going to be stepping down, and you, Christine. I didn't know if there was an interest, and maybe we do a truly a hybrid, and if people want to come into the office, we do a little celebratory, particularly for Fred, since he's going to be leaving the area, and for those that can come in, great. For those, will be available to do it by virtual.